I'm Dr. Cheryl Broda Skill. Welcome to my podcast, The Forge and Crucible. Today I want to talk about a prophetic word that I got in June, early June, and I'm going to read the word. We're just going to get right into it. I'm going to read what that word is, and then I'll share what I believe. Remember, we know in part, we prophesy in part, the Bible says in First Corinthians. So I'm going to read it and just give what I know and then give what I believe it does mean. And the reason I'm sharing is so that we can prepare. There are different reasons God gives prophetic words, and this particular prophetic word is it's in part a warning and it's in part for direction. For direction. This is a new era and we are going in a new direction as the people of God, which is the church, and also as a nation, and also for other nations. But this particular word pertains to America. So I'm going to read it. And I'm going to read it kind of in three parts. And this is the first part. The days of freedom are free no more. Freedom cost. The price is heavy and everyone must pay. Now, those are some pretty weighty words. And then we have to consider what does that really mean? Now, I do know that freedom, the days of freedom are free no more, and that freedom costs. The first thing we can refer to is land of the free, home of the brave. Those are thoughts that came to me during that after meditating on this word. We're known around the world as a place of freedom, opportunity. We have touted around the world, and indeed have been, a place of opportunity. Many people from different nations. The reason people have loved America so much is because of those opportunities. The freedom to reinvent yourself has been a part of the American fabric. The ability to go from rags to riches, to use the internet or the latest developments, to have access to things that may not be accessible in some countries because of their political system, some countries because of poverty. So, and some for other reasons. The bottom line is we in America have enjoyed this kind of freedom, the ability to say First Amendment rights, say what we want, or even do what we want. Second Amendment, carry arms, just a host of freedoms that most other nations do not enjoy. But those freedoms are coming, I do know that, are going to be coming to a grinding halt slowly in some cases and fast in others. We have been a nation freedom to enjoy property and our options to grow, start a farm if you want, transition into something else, change. We've had a lot of freedoms that many other nations, in some cases, have envied, and in other cases, some nations think it is excessive. The ability to do what we want is excessive, and we do. And some of these freedoms have been our downfall. We do we're doing as a nation engage in behaviors that are anti-Christ. We engage in behaviors that do not promote the gospel and in fact have a growing movement. I don't think it's bigger than Christians. I don't think the move it may seem. And again, I don't have stats on that. It's just my that part is just my thoughts. But we do have a growing, and I'm going to call it antichrist, and even a budding or unfortunately a maturing compromising of the gospel in this nation. And so this was the Lord speaking. The days of freedom are free no more. Freedom costs. There's a price attached to everything. And we know that we have a military that is a very powerful military that has staked our claims around the globe. They are a formidable force to be contended with, um, and that's known the world over. And many of them have paid the ultimate price, sacrificing their lives in order to maintain what we call freedom, in order to secure these borders. But the Lord said freedom costs, and I don't know if that means, I do know He said this country will go into war, and I don't think at this point you need to be prophetic or hear a prophetic word to realize that. I do not believe it will be every state. I do believe it will be particular states, not I won't put any names there, but there will be a form of war throughout the country in one way or another. For some, it may be physical. For some states, um, it could be heavily political. Well, for most states, it'll be heavily political, but political in different ways. Some secession may reemerge again. There are a host of challenges, troubles, to be honest, that will emerge over the coming years. This decade will be filled with challenges, and they will ebb and flow. They will ebb and flow. There's times where it will be just heightened. They could cover many different arenas, and I believe just like now, the health aspect is challenged, and that has taken away some of our freedom because you don't have the freedom to walk anywhere without a mask, without considering other people's health, and that's appropriate. There will be other challenges in the health area, political area, financial area, and also militarily, safety. There will be challenges across these different areas and possibly more than that. Even spiritual, Christian, religious areas, there will be challenges in that area. So, and possibly even, uh, you know, as far as geophysically, I think that would be it concerning like earthquakes or something like that. So there will be many different challenges. The freedom we have enjoyed uh, is going to be challenged. To turn on the internet in communist countries, if they don't want you to watch something, see something, they simply turn the internet off. You don't have access anymore. And those kinds of things will happen in the States. Possibly the grid going off, and not because there was something necessarily wrong. So um, we're in for some interesting time, folks. We're in for some interesting times. I want to take a moment just to encourage everyone to subscribe to my podcast on Apple, Spotify, or whatever platform you're listening on. And also, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Prophetess Cheryl Brodus Gill, and also follow me on Facebook, Prophetess Cheryl, Cheryl, Brodus, Brodus, Gill, Gill. So back to what we're talking about for a few more minutes. I want to also share in this same word, um, and this probably is geared more toward Christians. If you are saved, if you are not saved, this is definitely to you, but you want to continue to reap the fruit of God's goodness. And God is good. I am not saying that God brought this on us, and I'm not saying He did not. There are different views and opinions on that, and I don't want to get into that argument. When we all get to heaven, we'll find out who was right. The main thing is to focus on where we are and what's happening and where we are going. We are, and I shared this word at the beginning of the year. The Lord told me last year, and I shared it with some people I was ministering to, that we are in a new era, a new time. We know there was the civil rights era. There were also the Roaring Twenties. That was another era. Certain things happen in a particular era. This era is going to be, most eras are marked by a specific thing, like the Civil Rights era was marked by a move of civil rights, equality, and peace. The Roaring Twenties was marked by an era of partying and things going well and prosperity and all of that, and people dressing, getting looser with their dressing, partying. And there are a host of other eras. This era, wow, I don't think there's a specific thing when this era is done. There won't be a specific thing it can be marked by, but there may be a word it can be marked by: volatility, or maybe we have a few words: violence, volatility, but also victory. For the believer in Christ, this era will mark victory. There are a host of challenges that the church will go through, but this era ultimately will be marked by victory for us. I want to continue to read this word, what else the Lord said. After saying freedom, the days of freedom are free no more, freedom costs, the price is heavy, and everyone must pay, and that everyone, even the church on some level. I think about Elijah when he said, "No more rain nor dew." He also was affected by the famine because no more rain nor dew meant they couldn't go grow crops. And so he also was affected and had to be relocated. He had to move. God relocated him. But also, the word goes on to say, um, pay the price. Freedom ain't free except through me. So there's going to be a price paid. Elijah was relocated and he was provided for. Even during his relocation, he lived in comfort. But he did not want to relocate. He did not want to leave the area. For some people, what does that look like? When these difficulties, we're already in difficulties, but as they begin to increase, it may mean for some people relocation. No longer living, you may love your state, your home, the location you're in, and it may mean you have to move. Freedom ain't free. The price is heavy and everyone must pay. And that may be the cost you pay. Having to give up a location that has been good to you, an environment, neighbors, living near family, or you may not want to move back near family, and that may be a requirement, something you may have to do. But there's a cost, there's a price that will be paid in some way. I don't know specifically for every person what that price is. For some people, they'd be glad to relocate. For some people, they'll hate it. For some people, it may mean changing of a job, losing a job, starting a business at a time that you weren't prepared for. It can mean a host of things, but there is a price to be paid. And freedom ain't free except through Christ. We know that the Bible tells us that whom the Son sets free is free indeed. And so, you know, that freedom, when he makes you free, there are several places in the Bible, of course, where we can observe that freedom. When they try to, there are times when they did arrest the apostles, but there's times when that arrest did not end in where these people were trying to take it, which was to torment, torture, or even kill. Peter was arrested and the church at that time, the house church, because it was a house church, they didn't have a building that they paid for with, you know, they just were in somebody's house and they were praying for him to be released. And an angel of the Lord released him supernaturally. So through God, he received his freedom, and he's not the only one. There's so many other scriptures that I can share with you, and you can read about it. Just read the book of Acts alone, and you will see people receiving their freedom through Christ. There was freedom, literal freedom, and we know also freedom spiritually. So many people are encaged. Many of you right now may be entrapped, your mind entrapped in certain thought processes. Even right now, you may not agree. You may agree with what I'm saying, but you don't like the Christian aspect. But there will be no separation on the forge and crucible. God is God. And, I glorify him, and that's what I'm sharing. If it disturbs you, I will pray for you. I'll give my contact information at the end. But other than that, I guess you won't listen to the podcast, but this podcast is for those who want to be set free, who want the directive of the Lord. Um, and that is where this podcast is going. So freedom ain't free except through Christ. So there's so many ways in which he will set you free. Some are bound, spiritually bound. Demons are real. And some are bound, some are haunted, some of you are haunted. You can't shake it. You don't sleep well at night. But in Psalm 127, the Lord said he gives us, those who belong to him, good sleep, great sleep. And so that's not of God. If you're haunted, you can't sleep at night, you're paranoid, things like that, you need to be set free. And so freedom, the only freedom we will find in America, the United States of America, will be through Christ. We are entering into a time where I believe that also means there will be a type of martial law because freedom is only free through Christ. I believe America will not. The price is heavy. Everyone must pay. I believe there will be martial law in America. And I believe the states may have to operate autonomously. I know there will be a Cold War, he said, between the states. So there will be a type of each and every state, governors will become like presidents because they will operate autonomously. I don't know exactly what will happen with the federal government. I don't know exactly how that will play out, but we will have challenges in this area of freedom. The freedoms we have known will be challenged. And that is what this looks like. The strong possibility of martial law. For how long? Not sure, but I do believe that is a big part of what this means. Freedom is not free anymore. The price is heavy and everyone must pay. We'll all be, you know, under the watchful eye of whoever has control of the government, whether it's a soft coup, our military, or I don't know. But just keep that in mind. So the point is not to be afraid. The point is preparation. What does it mean? Not having the freedom to come and go. Possibly we won't be able to move around as easily or freely. So maybe having enough food in your house, water, just being prepared. I'm not saying go overkill with the bunker and the whole thing. It would be too late if you didn't have one already anyway. But just some general preparations, able to stay in your house for a month without having to go out for something to secure yourself. So just a suggestion. So I also, just the last part, I just want to bring this to a close with this last part, particularly for Christians. I heard the song, Go Home to See My Lord and Be Free. And I do believe there are Christians who, as it says in Hebrews, I believe 11, I call it the wall of faith. You have a host of Christians who the Bible said love that their lives even unto death. So I do believe there will be Christians who will lay down their life for the gospel. There is, again, a growing antichrist, and there has been movement. There are people who don't want to hear what the gospel has to say. They want the right to say, the freedom to say what they want to say, but they don't want to hear what the gospel has to say because it opposes their lifestyles. And so, with that said, there will be Christians who will stand regardless of, of anarchists, regardless of the homosexual agenda or movement, regardless of a host of other movements. They, and we will stand and just say what the gospel says. What the gospel says. I'm just a messenger. I'm just the messenger. If you don't like what it says, then you got to take it up with God. Let me know how that turns out. You're going to have to take it up with Him. But our prayers, we will pray for you. Whatever the situation, whatever the circumstance, it's not about hating or disregarding or saying that you have no place. You do have a place in society. But with Christ, God does have standards. He does. I had to comply. I'm not exempted, and neither is any preacher, neither is anyone who is in the body of Christ, any saint. If they, our job is not about ridiculing you. We're not trying to ridicule. We are trying to set you free, bring you to that place and to the person who will set you free. I'm not responsible for setting you free. I'm a representative. I'm an ambassador. I am able. You need healing? Holla, give me a call on my Facebook. Just inbox me. But yes, there is saints. We will be challenged, and I do believe and I respect, and that is awesome that we will be, you know, going all the way for Christ. This is that time. This is that time. And it's very challenging. For some of you, it might be a fearful time. But I say, think about the book of Acts, Peter, the apostles, what they did in this very challenging time, how they stood, their life was being sought. They did the same thing. They were standing for the gospel, they were preaching the truth. And then you had those who were in the religious establishment quarantining them, arresting them, having them set up false charges, trumped up charges against them. So this is not new. These are old tricks, and we can read about it. And so just be prepared. In any event, that's the word that I wanted to share with everyone today. Just to be prepared. Freedom ain't free no more, and just for us to not be filled with fear, but to prepare ourselves for the times that we are in. Again, we're in a new era, in a challenging decade, check a decade that will be filled with challenges. So I just wanted to share that. Again, I'm Dr. Cheryl Broda-Skill. Thanks for listening to my podcast. If you want to get in touch with me, you can inbox me on my Facebook page, Prophetess Cheryl Broda-Skill. That's CherylBroadusGill. And also you can email me at Dr. Cheryl Broda-Skill. I'm at gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Until the next episode, remember 1 Kings 18:21. If God be God, serve God.